Pastor, assalamu alaikum. I would
Walaikum
like to ask you two questions closely related to each other. One of them, knowing the exceptional birth of Jesus Christ, can we place him higher than other prophets? And second question, if the Christians place Jesus so high, what is, to your mind, the main reason that they completely deny him in their everyday life and behavior? Thank you very much.
I think this question should have been best answered by some Christians rather than me, because they know the intricate reasons why they have to do it. But I can only offer a guess. The case of Jesus is a very special case. It's not that of an ordinary prophet of Allah. It is so significant in so many ways that unless you fully realize the significance of Jesus as Messiah, perhaps you cannot fully understand the attitude of Christians to him. They have definitely seen something special in him, which they did not notice or observe or read about in the Old Testament regarding other prophets. And that is why he was specifically entitled Messiah or Christ. So if every prophet shared this with him, he should have also been referred to as a Messiah and a Christ. So the important thing is that what was the significance of this title? And if the significance is correctly understood, then you can only revere such a person to the degree of his true status understood by the title. If you do not understand the significance correctly, then you may go on looking for things which were not meant by God, and may imagine things about the person which did not relate to his reality. So with the case of Christians, I think this second alternative is at work. The significance of Jesus should have been understood with reference to his original reality as he appeared. And what specific task did he perform in the Judaic history, which singles him out as not only as a prophet, but a person holding another status or a position, or let's say, delivering a mission which was not delivered before. And that can be well understood in relation to Jesus' own attitudes, rather than what people of later ages thought about him. A few things are very clear to me. Number one, that Jesus did not change the book, nor did he ever claim to have changed the book. What he changed was attitudes. And the most significant change he brought about was attention to the shell, to change our attention from the shell to the spirit. It was the substance which he emphasized. And that was so highly needed at that time, because the Jewish people had got stuck to the form and shell of the teachings of the Torah, so much so that they thought that if you formally subscribe to God as described literally in Torah, that is quite sufficient, and that is then you really attain the purpose of religion. By performing, for instance, in the case of Muslims nowadays, we see, if you just perform the prayer, but walk out of the mosque as empty as you entered, if you perform the prayer at home as well, but it does not bring about any real change in your spiritual nature and your attitude to God and attitude to His creation. This is just form. This is also a sort of idol worship. It is so close to idol worship that the Jews repeatedly committed the mistake of worshipping a God which could be presented to them visually, which had a formal existence. So this attitude, when hardened, although it hardened around the concept of unity of God, but remained a mere shell, no more. So that is against which Jesus Christ launched a great movement. And it was his emphasis on the substance and spirit of things which ultimately led St. Paul to completely misunderstand him. While those who were directly instructed by him under his own personal spiritual example, they disagreed with Paul and took up a cudgel for a long time for retaining the form as well as spirit and substance. So this is the struggle we find in the early history of Christianity, which answers this question partly, which you have raised, that the struggle was between form and substance, and they were taken separately, as if one would eliminate the necessity of the other. This was not Jesus. Nowhere did he do away with form. What he did was he presented the case of a religion which had no substance left in it. This was without the love of God. And it would not serve any purpose. But the form did serve a purpose, which was to retain the spirit intact. So unfortunately, the division took place between the two extremists. One who saw Jesus as emphasizing the spirit, the others who considered him to have abandoned the form altogether. So when they turned to spirit, then what was left of spirit? There, a new personality of Jesus began to emerge. They thought that Jesus had done away with the law so completely and totally that to live in Jesus became religion in itself. And as it had happened never before in any religious experience, so this was the special Jesus which emerged in the sight of the later day Christians. I mean, those who gradually moved away from the spirit of Jesus, that they thought he must have done away with the form, disposed of the Sharia or the law, so that man could live by his own spiritual entity in himself. And if that spiritual entity of man was at one with the spirit of Jesus, that is holiness, and that is all Jesus brought. So he stood higher above all prophets of Allah, according to them, because by the intricate thinking of Pauline philosophy, he delivered man not from sin, but from the form of Sharia. Then sin and curse and Sharia, that is law, became synonymous to the followers of this philosophy. While the fact is that sin is born out of law, but obedience to God and love of God are also born out of the same. There is a joining point in the law which is brought by prophets, which can never be separated. And such religious